Tana Mojo, who has come out with her hashtag booty for Biden.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Watchtime Podcast. As today we're going to be tackling a whole bunch of news topics of things going on around the gaming industry, everything from the US election and how a whole bunch of YouTube influencers and gaming influencers are getting involved in that. We're also going to be talking about David Dobrik and all the crazy things he's up to recently because, I mean, look, let's be honest, he's always up to crazy things, but now it's crazier than ever. And then, last of all, we're going to be talking about some pretty cool and interesting developments in the esports area of gaming. Lots of exciting things to talk about. It's been a pretty, I was going to say busy week, but actually for me, it's been a pretty chill week. How's yours been, Grace?
My week has been pretty hectic, actually. I feel like it's been like campaign season. So a lot of my job is working with brands and the creators that I represent to help them execute campaigns and sponsorships with brands. And it has been like fucking mental the last 2 months, but that's good. That's why we love it. What about you? You've been streaming a shitload.
I've been streaming a ton.
You've been putting the hours in.
Yeah, I did a 9-hour stream on Sunday, which was
Streamer,
great
by the way.
because then I feel like I'm like getting ahead on like what I need to get done for the week. But also like I've genuinely just been enjoying streaming. Like with Among Us is making streaming so easy. Like some games you play and like you stream for like 3 hours and it feels like you've been streaming for like 6 hours and you're like, Among Us. I remember the first time I did a stream on that, I thought we'd been going for like an hour and a half. I looked down, it's like, oh, you're 5 hours in. And I was like, whoa. So occasionally I feel like when you get a game that's just super fun, super easy to stream, like you just got to go for it.
Jumping into what I think we were going to kick off talking about, did you watch the presidential debate on Tuesday?
Everyone in the office, like all of us here, were just gathered around this little iPad. I don't know why we didn't put it up on one of our 3,800 computer monitors in the office or one of the 14 TVs out there. We decided to put it on an iPad. Everyone was just gathered around it watching it like, oh my God. Literally, for anyone who's watching the podcast, who's watched people play Among Us, it was literally that. I was actually triggered. When they were like, will you shut the fuck up, man? I was like, oh my God, this is actually going to be me in an hour when I'm telling like someone else to shut up and that I'm not the imposter. That was the vibe I got from it. It was chaos.
It was chaos. And I feel like it was just fitting and in line with 2020 as a year, as a vibe. It was that.
Oh
was,
my God.
That was what it was.
Dude,
it was insane. It
this
was like,
year
it was
is
also,
so
I mean, like
wild.
We're joking. Dude, it's crazy. It's like we're joking about it, but it's also kind of sad because the future of the US does rely on the outcome of this. And I was left feeling not particularly inspired or excited by anything that came out of that night.
I think pretty much every news channel put it well. I don't think even though every news channel is obviously super partisan, I think both CNN and Fox were both like, nobody won the debate tonight. The only losers were the American people. That was literally what I saw both Fox and CNN saying. They're like, no one won, everybody lost, including us. Like,
dude, even the moderator did an interview the next day, and he was basically like, yeah, I fucked up. And I was not ready for what that was.
Guys,
like,
I fucked up. I
say.
thought there were going to be two adults debating. Like, that was my bad. That was my bad. Like, obviously that wasn't the case.
I thought everyone was going to like stand by the rules that they agreed to stand by, but like obviously not.
I love the idea of them, like, because apparently they're changing the rules up for next week. And like, I love the idea of them just having like a mute button. Like the moderator just being like, Trump's like, listen up. And then he's like, mute. And you just see Trump going,
it definitely had a massive, like, if you were on Twitter that day, it was the whole Twitter feed. I felt like everyone was engaged. And I think it definitely says something, you know, for the world that we're in and the podcast that we're doing, which is talking about like creators and influencers and the impact of, you know, digital youth on the world. And I think
what a segue by Grace there.
I'm actually a professional podcaster.
I'm a professional segwayer, guys. And not the kind that you ride.
But it was amazing to see just how many people, young people, were talking about it on Twitter. Because I feel like politics is an area that previously people were like, oh, it's a little bit taboo. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to polarize my audience. And I think it's been amazing to see how many massive creators are, you know, whether or not they're saying go like Biden or Trump, or whether they're just saying like get out and vote, they're really engaging their audience. And they're saying like, guys, you need to understand that this is a thing that's happening. Don't ignore it. Like, and I think it's amazing to see creators exercising their influence and in some ways their responsibility, I think.
No, it's super. It's the same as like when drama happens in the community. I feel like drama between YouTubers is slightly different, but definitely in politics, it's really weird, and a lot of respect to whenever people do come out and they say like, and they do kind of, you know, really push one, or, you know, kind of are willing to, sorry, not push people one way or the other, but, you know, just like actually be honest about what their current perspective is. Because the thing is, especially, and I know that like Grace and I talk about this a lot, Australian politics is quite chill. Don't get me wrong, like everyone hates their politicians and Australia is no different. But like in Australia, you can be like, oh,
it's less polarized.
Yeah, you can be like, oh, I'm on this party, I'm on this party. And people are like, okay, cool. Like I think that party isn't like, you know, doing as good, but like whatever. Like you're not going to actually have fights over it. Whereas like in America, like you could, like I've seen people, like a YouTuber will make a tweet being like, guys, just want you to say like, I really think that, you know, you should be voting to push Trump out and get Biden in. And you'll have someone reply be like, hi, I've watched your channel and enjoyed your content for 8 years. Now I will be unsubscribing and never watching you again. And you're just like,
Casey Neistat,
whoa,
okay, 2016.
100%. It's crazy. It's just like, it's like, okay, like your political, you know, aligning, like, I don't know, for me at least, if I like your content, I like your content, whatever. I can separate those two things. But yeah, it is wild to me how in America, I feel like families will fall apart. People will, you know, like abandon YouTubers they've watched for 10 years. Like just so which means that when you're a YouTuber, if you make a statement like, hi, I believe X, Y, and Z, like, look, be honest. Like if you're, say a YouTuber comes out and says, I support Biden, realistically, they're not going to gain any followers from that. Like, that's no. Just like you're never going to gain when you align with a certain party, but you will definitely lose. So yeah, I think it's you know, kind of like it's a big move whenever someone is actually, you know, kind of gutsy enough to do that. But that's why I think, yeah, like what we were saying, a lot of YouTubers, whether or not they're you know, kind of willing to come out and say I'm, you know, I'm Democrat or Republican, a lot of them are coming out and just saying register to vote.
And I think it is insane, the examples that we've seen, even just over the last 48 hours, of the influence that these people have. And I think it says so much. I mean, like, you could take this and run with it, and it's an example for the future of how much, like, when creators say to their audience, like, hey, do something, people take action. So the two examples I'm really thinking of is Kylie Jenner did an Instagram post, I think 24 hours ago when we're recording this, basically telling people to vote. And apparently vote.org in the 1 hour after she posted that saw a 1,500% increase in traffic on the site, which is insane.
Yeah.
And then David Dobrik is giving away 5 Teslas to people that show that they've voted, which is like just the most David way ever to like
encourage people to vote.
Encourage people to vote. And then the one that I love the most is Tana Mojo, who has come out with her hashtag booty for Biden. And she's sending people a nude on OnlyFans if they show that they voted for Biden, which I think is like insane. And while that might not be for everyone, wouldn't be for me, I think you have to respect that young people and young creators are
willing to manipulate their vote for nudes. Oh,
but
sorry,
you know what
creative?
I mean? Like they know how to speak to people. Like they know what
with nudes. Yeah, 100%. Really.
Okay, but I don't think it's the nudes that's actually the thing. I think it's the fact that she's like
Teslas.
touched on
nudes and Teslas. You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't restrict us.
I think it's the fact that they like, Elliott, this is meant to be. an intellectual perspective on social media topics and get off. I think it's amazing that these young people, they know how to mobilize an audience. They know how to like touch on what's culturally sensitive at the moment and speak to people in a way that makes people listen.
Yeah, interesting thought. Not trying to take us off topic here. Is it
That'd be unlike you.
Is it legal to say, I will give you something if you show you voted for this party? Really random, but imagine, like, is that any different to if a party came out?
You can't pay people.
Yeah, like if I came out and I said, everyone who sends me a photo showing they voted Biden, I'm going to send you $5. Essentially, you're buying votes at that stage. And is that, and obviously, like a nude isn't cash, but it's still kind of like,
how much is the nude worth?
Like, I totally understand the ones that are like, register to vote for your chance to win a Tesla, register to vote, just get involved in the process. But specifically being like this party,
It's a good point. It's a good
just
point.
A thought.
I'm not sure.
Just a thought. Are these illegal? Are these illegal nudes? Are these nudes? Can they even be given out legally? I don't know.
I don't know. We're going to have to do a little investigation on that one. I'm actually not sure, but it's a good point. But I think it definitely, to me, it just says something for, I think, one, it's incredible that young people are highly engaged in politics and using their audience to encourage other people to do the same. And I think it's amazing just the way that these people know how to speak to an audience. They're not, saying, hey guys, like tune in to watch the debate or anything and then make up your mind and decide. It's like they just know how to communicate that, which I think is like super unique.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and obviously, like the level of success they've had is crazy. Like I think I forget the name of the group that David partnered with on his activation when he was giving away the 5 Teslas, but they were like, this is literally the single biggest celebrity voter registration activation ever. Full stop. It was like within the first 2 days is something like 250,000 new registered voters, which you think, and the thing is, like, what blows my mind, what I think is so insane is you think about what voter participation, and I'm probably going to be so wrong on this number, but voter participation in the US is roughly like 60% from memory, roughly, give or minus 10.
Lower.
Yeah, but roughly whatever. So say there's 200 million people who are of age to vote. 100 million of those people actually do vote. Am I wrong on those population numbers? I could be, whatever. But
330 in the US. But
okay. So we'll say 200 for ease of numbers. That, like literally if 100 million people are voting in the US, by getting an extra, 500,000 people to vote, which has happened just between David and Kylie Jenner, if not more, that will continue to happen over, you round that up to 1 million. They have shifted between the two of them, they have shifted the like number of voting Americans by 1%. And when you think about it again, a lot of the time these elections come down to margins of 49.5 to 50.5. Like literally they come down to 0.5% margins. You have two people alone, not talking about all the other influences or the other people, shifting the total number of voting Americans by 1%. That is huge. That is massive.
Especially when you think about the fact that the audience that they're engaging is an audience that is underrepresented at elections.
And would probably typically be more liberal. Like just saying younger demographics tend to probably be more liberal aligned. So in terms of the impact that it's having on benefiting the Liberal Party, huge. Sorry, the Democrats. I'm getting my
Australian US politics. It's insane. It literally has the ability to shift the outcome of an election. It's I don't know. I think it's pretty amazing. Actually, I'm quite inspired by it.
Yeah, like I literally, and okay, at this point maybe I'm getting carried away, but say that doing like when that presidential debate happened, it would probably sway the overall vote by 0.5%, maybe 1, but probably not. Literally by what these two people did by getting people to vote, they arguably had a bigger impact on the election than that entire presidential debate, which is absolutely insane. Which, I mean,
David's power knows no bounds. I know people in the comments always come and are like, oh, you guys like are just talking about David Dobrik all the time. It's because he is an enigma.
I
don't know if there is another creator that is able to do what he does to the extent that he does it.
His ability to engage his audience and actually get them to do stuff is literally unmatched. I think what blows my mind the most is like him as a channel. Like has, you know, up until a few months ago, he had, say, 15 million subscribers. Up like a year or two ago, like I had more subscribers than David. But like literally his channel has, you know, say 50% more subscribers than mine does. But I am not even on the same ethereal plane as him in terms of his size and his value and his magnitude as a YouTuber. Like there is no way I could get like 250,000 people to register to vote. I could maybe get like 5,000, 10,000, but he with a following that is like, you know, percentage wise 50% to double, is able to get literally hundreds times more to actually do what he tells them to do. And sure, part of that you can say is because, he's giving away Teslas, but also people just do what he says.
People love him.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
People love him. And he's so shit. Yeah, it's actually insane.
He's
like,
so
when people are always
shit.
Like,
let's crop that out and send that to David. Tag him on Twitter. Let Grace know. let him know that Grace hates him.
Please don't do that. I'm such a fan. No, I mean, people always say like, oh, you guys are always talking about David. It's because he is seriously unique. I can think of no one else in the world that has the ability to do what he does. Maybe a Mr. Beast on some level, but not quite. Like David hasn't uploaded on YouTube in 6 months, and he's now one of the biggest people on TikTok. His Twitter engagement is off the chart. His Instagram is off the chart. He's still doing the most insane brand deals without even his main platform to sell them against. It is unbelievable what he's doing, and I think like if I could buy stock in a YouTuber, he's one of the ones that I would be doubling down on.
Yeah, there's a reason we probably spend more time talking about people like David Dobrik and Mr. Beast than anyone, is because I think those people are at the forefront of YouTube. And I think obviously we're going to go back and talk a bit more about David, but even like, you know, Mr. Beast these days, like his videos are literally like TV quality game shows now. Like that, or even better. Honestly, I find them way more engaging and also less
I find
outbreaks.
that Mr. Beast is raising the bar on himself every single week, and no one is even keeping up.
Okay.
People are falling behind. I think he is widening the gap between him and every other creator that's trying to do stuff on YouTube, literally by the week.
Yeah, and 100%, and that's because he actually is like constantly driving himself to improve. I forget if I mentioned this on the podcast. I think I told you. But I don't know if you remember like 5 weeks ago, 6 or even more, maybe it might have been like 2 or 3 months ago now. We were talking about like channels that have that X factor. And I mentioned that, you know, there were certain channels that I thought, you know, did really high quality content, and then ones that just went so big on their ideas and had their like the metagaming down so well that they did well. And I said that I thought Mr. Beast, his content was like, you know, like good, but not incredible. But obviously he was still successful because of all the other factors. And he literally DM'd me like after watching that, and he was like, hey man, like wondering if you could like put together some thoughts and write up, you know, like why, you know, like what you think about the content I could improve, like what's better, what's worse. And I literally because like I hadn't actually been watching him recently, because I was watching all the old videos where it used to be like, oh, last one to leave the circle wins $100,000. And I remember those videos actually used to be, you know, like it would kind of be like everyone's in a circle, and then it would be like 20 minutes of just like randomness, and then eventually someone would win. Whereas now these days, it's just like engagement. Like, bam, video's opening. We're giving away $50,000 diamond or a $100,000 check. Which one do you want? Bam, you want that one? Okay, good. Next one. And then they just move on. It's a thing. And I literally wrote back to it. I was like, dude, I was so wrong. Holy crap, your content is like out of control these days. And like going back, I cannot fault the guy. Sorry, but anyway.
But how good is that? It's that obsession. It's that obsession with improvement.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the biggest YouTuber on the platform, or I would say like one of the top 5 for sure, he is listening to a podcast that would critique him. One doesn't take that criticism and say, whatever, I have 20 times more viewers than you do. Like, what do you know? He takes the time to message you and be like, give me your feedback. How do you think I can improve? Like, that's why he is where he is because he's obsessed with improvement.
Yeah.
And
obsessed with improvement and always just trying to find the next way to go bigger, better, crazier. Like I remember, 2 years ago, like a crazy Mr. Beast video was him giving away like 10, 20 grand in doing red cup beer pong type shots like at a college. Yeah. And everyone be like, oh my God, he just gave away like $500 in one cup. That's crazy. Whereas now it's sort of like video opens, $100,000, bam, there you go. All right, moving on. Like that happens in the first 30 seconds. It's insane. Yeah. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, anyway, I don't want to get too off the core topic of, well, actually, I guess it's still in the same vein. It's driving yourself to be bigger and better and keep on building. And I think that, obviously we've gone over Mr. Beast, but David Dobrik, to go back to our second YouTuber we love to simp for, he's doing some big moves at the moment on like a lot of different fronts. I think he launched a fragrance.
Yes, he's launching a fragrance tomorrow, which I think is super interesting.
Which is really going to screw up the launch of Scent de Muselk that I was about to actually put out on the market, but it's fine. We'll just delay that. I don't know if anyone
would want to buy that one.
Oh, it's yeah, look, I'm going to be honest, you don't want it.
The scent of a gamer. After 8 hours of Fortnite streaming. Ew. No, but I think fragrances is a super interesting thing, and I think it is obviously another notch in David's belt of products that he's trying. Other creators have tried coming out with fragrances in the last year and have seen massive success with them. I think
really?
Mojo, to meet her, bring her up again. She sold out of her fragrance in like 2 minutes or something, I think, which is crazy. And traditionally, fragrances have been a really successful product line for celebrities. I mean, Ariana Grande, Paris Hilton has made literally millions of dollars off her fragrances. Britney Spears is still making millions off her fragrances, or at least her estate is, #free Britney. But basically, I think it's an interesting move for David, given he's a guy. Like, I'm not even quite sure right now if it's a fragrance for men or women. But I just admire so much how he has this appetite for doing more at the moment. And he's trying so many things. Like, he's trying his David's Disposable app, which it looks like they're putting a lot of effort into growing at the moment. He's not even doing YouTube, but I think putting the effort into, sort of expand and become more multi-platform than he ever has before.
Yeah, 100%. I think like what he's building and what he's doing is just crazy. And I think it's so interesting seeing how, and once again, we have gone vaguely over this topic before, but just, I don't know, different YouTubers, like a lot of different channels are doing very big things, but it's always interesting seeing how, like, where they invest that time and where they, kind of think their value is best spent. And obviously you've got people like Mr. Beast, who are very much strongly investing in that content and doing, and not that they're not doing stuff outside that, but I'd say that's their focus. And then on David, he hasn't posted a video in
6 months.
He hasn't posted a video in 6 months. Most people, if they don't post for 6 months, they become irrelevant. You can't just not post for 6 months. That's not how this works. But David can not post for 6 months and be just still fully relevant.
Why is that? I think it's because he's spent so much time building himself out on other platforms. He's more than a YouTuber.
Yeah, and also he is a YouTuber that's like, you can't just say, oh, David, stop posting. I'll go to my second-rate David Dobrik, or, my David Dobrik, kind of doppelganger, similar content style. Like, there are a lot of people who try, but I don't think anyone really nails the emulating of David. But yeah, like
that's unique in and of itself, because I think for a lot of creators, what their relationship with YouTube is that they're basically renting space from YouTube. Like, YouTube saying, here, have a channel and you can upload what you want on it. Yeah. David is not renting space on YouTube. Maybe he is in terms of just his channel alone, but his channel is now just one of so many aspects of his brand. And Yeah, I don't know. I'd be keen to hear from anyone in the comments who you think has done that to a similar extent, or other people you think are going to do it. But for me, he's just god tier on that.
Do you think his social network / camera app will be a success?
So tell me about this, because I downloaded the app. I thought it was like
Wait, it's out?
pretty basic. Oh, well, he released a first version of David's Disposables, which was very similar to an app called Huji, in my opinion, which basically like gives photos a disposable effect. But he clearly is doing something else with it. So what's he doing, Elliott? I haven't even tuned in on this.
Okay. So obviously there was that Instagram account that he had called David's Disposables, where it was photos he took on a disposable camera, which I think is a really cool idea. And then I think he turned that into an app where you basically take a photo on your camera and it kind of gives it a disposable vibe. What, do you have to like wait 10 minutes to actually see what photo was taken or something like that?
Yeah.
And then and it puts like a bit of a filter on it, whatever, which is kind of like a cool, cute thing, but not a whole thing in itself. But from what I've heard since then, David is actually partnering with some pretty big Silicon Valley developer type people, bringing on like ex-CEOs of like big companies. And I think they're about to do their first round of funding, like to raise like millions and millions of dollars, because I believe there is something in the works of launching something of a social network, like whether or not that is going to be like more an Instagram adaptation of David's Disposable, so kind of just building on that whole disposable thing with taking photos and making them more meaningful, or whether or not it's going to go somewhere else. But long story short, he is apparently building out a app / Instagram-y type Snapchat-y competitor.
That's so sick. That's so sick.
Okay, so it's cool, but here is my only I don't want to say worry.
Criticism?
Well, not worry, but just like I feel like
Devil's advocate?
learn from history, or you're doomed to repeat it. Casey Neistat was a very, very big YouTuber.
Yeah.
He too thought that photos were becoming a bit too filtered and casual and not meaningful. He made an app called Beam, where you literally have to like hold your phone here. You can't really see what you're filming. Very similar to a disposable. You take it, you film it, and you don't really get to see what it is. You can't frame it perfectly or whatever. And that obviously was like cool and interesting, but ultimately a bit of a gimmick, and people didn't really engage with it. Casey was a huge creator. He still is, but he was probably like, he was at his prime back when Beam launched.
Yeah.
David is a huge creator. They're both very similar in terms of what they're trying to do. Once again, maybe this whole social media thing he's launching is totally different. But it's kind of sad, but everyone always talks a lot every single day. I mean, social media is ruining us. Like, we're all becoming too disengaged. Nothing special anymore. Everything's fake. And everyone's like, yeah, this is a real problem. And then it's like, yeah, but also like, are you going to do anything about it? And everyone's like, yeah, we need to do stuff. And you're like, okay, cool. Here's an app that like kind of like solves that problem. Like, but I don't look as good without my, but literally, but where's the filter button? It's like people are actually, people know that like that Instagram and filters and all the fakeness and all the bullshit is bad, but people also don't, I don't think at least people don't have the ability almost to release themselves from the clutch that is modern day social media. Like, people will like at the end of the day, people do care now, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. People care about their image, and ultimately it's literally like an arms race. If you've got one friend over here who is taking a photo of themselves out on the weekend and doing some very like fine little tuning, smoothing out some lines, making themselves look a little bit more perfect and a little bit better, and then putting that up on their social media, being like, hi guys, this was my weekend, look how beautiful I look. You are then not going to be like, well, on principle, I'm going to use the camera that, sure, doesn't make me look as pretty, reveals a lot more flaws. Like, sure, there are some people out there who absolutely will do that, and they don't necessarily invest in all the, social bullshit. But for most people now, they're kind of, they're trapped in that, that sense of, needing to be, kind of at that level. And you can't really go back.
I feel like you're a little cynical, and I feel like that kind of got off track of David's app. I feel like David
No, I was talking about why.
knows...
Yeah, why if he's building on that disposable app, which is very much like authentic photos, that if his idea for a social media is building off that disposable app, which is very similar to Beam in the sense that it's very, kind of raw, that ultimately I don't know. I think it's a lovely idea, but I think it's an amazing idea, and I think that it would be a much healthier way to consume social media, but I don't necessarily think it's a success.
Mm-hmm. I think it will remain to be seen. I feel like David gets the social pulse pretty well, and I feel like he'll have the right people around him to come out with something that won't... I think he'll have learnt from the Beams. He's friends with Casey, so I feel like I'm sure they'll share notes. But I think it's overall, it's exciting regardless. Like, whether or not these projects are massive successes or not, the fact that there are these people that are pushing things forward and trying new things in the first place is literally pushing the boundaries for what's going to come. Like, before you see people do things really successfully, there'll be people that tried iterations of it to a less successful extent. And if that's what's happening right now, and these are the results that people are seeing, then everything good is yet to come, which is why I think it's a super exciting place to be.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it's going to be awesome. I think I don't get me wrong. I want it to succeed so bad. I just like it. Actually, almost like it breaks my heart seeing these people who are no. But like, not breaks my heart. It's a bit melodramatic. But I think it's kind of sad. You see people who are identifying this problem, which is kind of social media having a lot of negative downsides, and they try and create something to kind of help alleviate that. But by its very nature, the problem is that social media is addictive and corruptive in how we affect our own self-image, but that is also addictive, hence why people don't want to leave it. So
I feel like you got to get some stuff off your chest this week, Elliott. You okay?
No, it's because I watched The Social Dilemma. I watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, okay? Far out, all right? There you go, it's out. It's out in the open. I watched it, and now I'm depressed, and social media is going to ruin the very fabric of society, and we're all doomed, and it's all over. Next topic.
Elliott's like, I quit YouTube yesterday. Alrighty, I think the last thing we were going to talk about was, and it kind of leads on from that, but creator diversification. This week, I feel like we've seen like 3 big creators come out announcing podcasts. A bunch of the big TikTokers have come out announcing they're doing podcasts. And one of them that's sort of been making the most headlines has been Bryce Hall, who's teamed up with an investor to release their podcast called, Creator Academy, I think. And it's been fairly successful for the first 2 episodes they've uploaded. And he's copped a little bit of hate for releasing a business podcast when I guess he's a TikToker. But I think for me, I find this super interesting, and I've seen some questions on Twitter, and a couple people messaged me being like, why is everyone doing podcasts? Like, what is the value out there?
They saw Watchtime. They saw Watchtime, and they all thought, wow, I want to be like them.
They were like... No, but I think it goes back to that point around diversification, which is really interesting. And then I think it's like a very big positioning piece as well. I think for a lot of these TikTokers, they're perhaps noticing that maybe they don't want to get stuck in a pigeonhole of being a TikToker. And so diversifying quickly across multiple platforms is a really good way to combat that and to position themselves as well. So regardless of whether or not they're going to make a shit ton of money from doing a podcast, it's more a positioning piece where it's like, now it's not just like Bryce Hall the TikToker, it's Bryce Hall the TikToker who also has an investment podcast, and it just adds a level of complexity to his public image, which I think is probably exactly what he's going after.
Also, it's fun. Like, I think a lot of the time podcasts is a really cool creative outlet to talk about stuff that you literally normally couldn't. Like, I can't go on my channel and really be talking about like gaming industry news, but that said, it's a topic that I'm really fascinated in, and I love ranting on various things, and that is what makes it so fun to do this podcast, because I can just go out there and be like and rant on social media apps for 10 minutes, and that's a thing. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's also just a cool way, I think, to just get diversity in whatever you're doing at the time.
Yeah, and I think I think on like a softer skill set as well, it probably makes you feel more comfortable public speaking. It encourages you to think a little bit wider and deeper on certain things. And it's certainly a really good relationship building platform as well. Like, I feel like we've been able to have some really interesting conversations with interesting people that we might not have otherwise, because we've had the podcast, and it's been so lovely to get so many messages from people that I work with in the industry, or that I'd love to work with in the industry, saying that like they've seen the podcast or they've watched Watchtime, or wanting to chat about something that we talk about, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, final topic.
What's the final topic? I thought that was the final topic.
Optic HECZ.
Oh, damn. Holy moly. This is the final topic. Guys, there is some... This is breaking news. I should give the Optic HECZ backstory first, because I feel like not everyone is totally familiar. Please give it to us.
And even I'll probably get a couple of bits in this wrong. Long story short, Optic HECZ was one of the founders, or he was the founder of a group called Optic, which was one of the OG Call of Duty kind of like trick shop groups that probably hit its like absolute prime in like the Modern Warfare era, like Modern Warfare 2. Or at least in my life, that's when they were the biggest. And that's all that matters. But yeah, since then, they kind of, developed a lot of kind of esport teams, and they had, competed in Call of Duty and I think a few other games. So then about a year and a half ago, there were a lot of rumors going around that Optic was in a bit of financial trouble, and they ended up selling to Immortals for $100 million about a year ago now. Then Optic HECZ was offered a role with Energy, basically becoming like a CEO or a co-CEO of Energy. He was given equity in Energy, and since then he's obviously been participating in content. I'm guessing doing a lot of strategy stuff behind the scenes, but basically he's now
Huntsman.
Yeah, exactly. He's now, and obviously lending a lot of credibility to Energy as an org, because Optic HECZ is one of the OGs. But then since then, there has been some developments in the last day or two, which, Grace, I'll let you take it from here.
So today, this is super interesting. So as Elliott said, HECZ is now very much Energy HECZ, co-CEO with Andy Miller, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago. And in some news that broke today, apparently HECZ, in an independent capacity, so not in relation to what he's doing with Energy, is in talks or has agreed to buy back Optic Gaming. So this is super interesting. Confusing. And I think this has literally only come out in the last few hours, so I'm going to be fascinated to see where this goes. But Optic is apparently going back to HECZ. Now, what makes this particularly interesting is that Optic has an option for the CDL League, which is the pro Call of Duty League globally. What is interesting about where HECZ is at right now is that HECZ is a co-CEO and has ownership in the Huntsman, which is another COD team.
Through Energy.
Under the rules, you're not allowed to own two. So although HECZ is wanting, or it seems as though he's buying back Optic, he wouldn't be able to have the CDL team or the option to have a team that is associated with Optic right now. Therefore, it is apparent that he wants to divest that team. He wants to he plans to get rid of that team. And then what will he do with the actual Optic brand, and what even is the Optic brand without it? No one's quite sure yet. What it seems like is potentially possible, which is fascinating, is that he would sell the option for the CDL slot to 100 Thieves and his friend Nadeshot, who 100 Thieves. We had Jackson Dahl on the podcast a few weeks ago, who, interestingly enough, I was thinking about this today, didn't really want to go into the financials or topics about COD teams, but it's possible, and this is again like totally speculation at the moment, that that HECZ would sell that option to 100 Thieves, and 100 Thieves would then have their CDL slot. So this, I think, is fascinating. And then what HECZ would do with Optic, and given the fact that HECZ is very much part of Energy now and the Huntsman, remains to be seen. But it's definitely a super interesting step in esports world.
Overall, super confusing. It seems like, and ultimately, once again, I could totally be missing things here, but I don't think there would be a ton of value left in Optic outside of the Call of Duty franchise. So literally, it could be a case where he comes in, buys it, sells the COD franchise, and then kind of like Optic is kind of retired as a brand.
But why would he do? This is what I want to know. Why would he
agree.
do that?
Number one,
because if 100 Thieves wanted the team, why wouldn't they have just bought Optic?
Okay.
See, I feel like there's something in there. Like HECZ must want to do something with the Optic branding. Otherwise, I fully agree. Playing middleman?
Yeah, I fully agree. It's like it doesn't make sense to sell the company to HECZ just for HECZ to sell it to 100 Thieves. Like there's something weird going on here. I don't know. And also, like, if the COD team was the play, there are other ways to go about doing it. I don't know. I think honestly, right now it is interesting. I really wish. I feel like normally I've got some good like speculation on what it could all mean, but I feel like the real nitty gritty of esports is so. It's very like smoke and mirrors. Like you don't really know what orgs are thinking or what is happening behind the scenes, because a lot of the time, and I don't mean this as a dig, but a lot of the time, literally the decisions that get made don't make sense, at least to like, unless you're like in that, because most orgs don't act on short-term financial logic. A lot of the time you're making loss-leading decisions to try and hopefully in the future recoup and play some kind of long-term strategy. So, and obviously once again, it's untrodden ground. So there is no rule book on how to be an esports org. So what these orgs do next to try and kind of break through and get more traction, you don't really know until it happens.
I also think it's really interesting that 100 Thieves made pretty public their reasoning not to get into the CDL at the start of the season, basically stating that it was crazy expensive and it was too expensive and they couldn't see the return on the investment. So it'll be fascinating when this hopefully plays out over the next few weeks to understand if there was a change of heart there, or we could be wrong and it might not be going to 100 Thieves at all. But I think this is a really interesting move. I think if any of you guys listening have any thoughts or ideas on what you think is going to happen, like please tell us below, because as Elliott said, I think we're just speculating right now and it's hard to know exactly how it's going to play out. But I think it's, very interesting.
It is going to be very, very interesting. But obviously, keep watching this space. We'll be right back on the podcast as soon as we get news about what he did and what the plan is, or if we get any juicy leaks.
Yeah, I want to know how much. I want to know the deal terms.
I want all the details. Tell me the dollars. Tell me the cents.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. No, it'll be
all
very
right,
interesting.
well, thank you guys so much for watching this week's episode. Remember to subscribe, follow, do all the things, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.